Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Viessmann Academy. My name is Rob Waters, and on behalf of everyone here at Viessmann, we thank you for taking the time to join us today for our webinar on the Vitodens 200 series boiler. We will hope to give you a lot of information on this product, a lot of tips and information that will be useful for you. I will be ably assisted today by Mark Norris, who will be available to answer questions for you. So if you have any questions during the presentation, you can post those on the GoToWebinar toolbar on your screen. You'll see a question box, and feel free to type in questions. Mark will try to answer those on the go and give you the answers you require for those. You'll also see a couple of handouts there, which we've put on so that you can pull some more information. But there's also, of course, lots of information on our website. So sit back, enjoy, and again, thanks for joining us. So today's topic is the Vitodens 200 series boiler, wall-mounted gas-fired condensing boiler. And there's two series of this boiler currently we sell, the B2HA and the B2HB. And I'll explain the difference as we go through this. But this is Viessmann's premier wall-mounted gas-fired condensing boiler. And we do have another series of boiler, the Vitodens 100, but this Vitodens 200 really stands apart because it has a lot of unique features that make it really our top-of-the-line gas-fired wall-mounted condensing boiler. So if you look at where it fits in, certainly Viessmann has a whole family of heating products available to you, and the Vitodens 200 falls into our line of condensing boilers. We also, of course, offer solar water heating systems, domestic water storage tanks. We've introduced a new Airflow Plus hydronic air handler. This is more of our residential small commercial line. And of course, we have a whole line of larger commercial gas-fired and biomass boilers as well. So I want to step back a little bit and start this presentation with a little Vitodens boiler history. Viessmann introduced the Vitodens 200 WB2A series boiler in the year 2000. We were one of the first companies in all of North America to introduce a wall-mounted gas-fired condensing boiler, and that WB2A series was sold for 9 years. And it really set the ball rolling, though, for this segment of the market in North America. There now is, of course, probably 40 or 50 different brands of wall-mounted condensing boiler, but the Vitodens 200 series has evolved over the years, but still, I think, remains one of the top in the industry. In 2009, we evolved to the WB2B series, and this was certainly an upgrade of the control and the burner technology, some of which we still see today. And then in 2013 to the current day, we've evolved to the B2HA series and the B2HB series. So that product has evolved over the years, but a lot of the traits remain the same. If I go back to the early days of presentations on the Vitodens 200 WB2A series, a lot of the same things we're talking about today, with the spiral wound stainless steel coil heat exchanger and the Viessmann system control technology. So certainly we've improved it, but it's still fundamentally the same. The Vitodens 200 also falls in the line of our current product portfolio, which offers now a Vitodens 100 series, a WB1B series. And we also offer a combination unit, the 222F, which is a combination Vitodens 200 and integral stainless steel water heater. So that's a product that we did a webinar on a few months ago. So if you want more information on that one, that certainly is available. We're going to focus today on that middle product, the B2HA. Now, we often see people that will use the 100 series boiler for most of their small jobs and then only upsize to the 200 when they need a bigger capacity unit. But what we'd like to show you today is that 200 series is really a step up in a lot of ways. The 100 series has a lot of great features, but it's really an entry-level kind of bare bones product from a standpoint of control and burner technology. So it has the same fundamental heat exchanger design, but one of the things I want to show you over today's webinar is that 200 series really steps you up to a whole bunch of features that you don't get in that 100 series boiler. And it really makes it a much more higher performing product, and I think will give you better results in overall. So that 200 series boiler, so if we look at some of the main features of that product, it's a wall-mounted gas-fired condensing boiler. There's 10 sizes of this product available, and it can operate as a standalone product or as a multi-boiler product. Fuel-saving, highly efficient condensing operation is what we've been selling in this boiler series since the year 2000. And AFUEs up to 95% make it certainly the best way to extract the maximum amount of energy out of the fuel that's put into this. And, it certainly is a huge increase when you look at retrofitting an existing installation from an old boiler to this new boiler. You can really jump up and save your customer a lot of fuel. It's a compact design with a real modern appearance. It's got zero clearance to combustibles. So one of the neat things you can do when you put this boiler in a mechanical room, the traditional old boiler is very different from this one. We have zero clearance on the boiler, the vessel, and the venting pipe. So you really can put this almost anywhere, because it's one of the other things we'll talk about next is WISP required operation. You combine those two features, zero clearance to combustibles and WISP required operation. You can stick this boiler almost anywhere in the home, and it doesn't require clearances. It doesn't create any noise. So it's a really different animal than the old piece of equipment where you had smoking hot vent pipes and massive clearance to combustibles, and oftentimes a lot of noise created with the appliance. This thing is virtually silent. So really does change the mechanical room up to a much more modern, high-tech piece of equipment. Like all Viessmann products, we pride ourselves on making things that are easy to install and simple to service. And we do a lot of things to make this boiler do both of those things. And we'll go through that as we go through the presentation. But it certainly is something that you'll find throughout the entire Viessmann product line is we think about the installer who has to put this in and who has to service it. We don't make things difficult to get at. We have quick connect plugs. We have quick connect fittings. We make all the components accessible. The heat exchanger for service and cleaning is you got a swing door so you can get at things very easily. So it really makes your life easier, both installing and servicing. And lastly, we offer all kinds of venting options, which I'll elaborate on at the end of this presentation. So lots of great features there in this product. I want to focus a little bit on some of the core, what I call the core three elements of this boiler, which is heat exchanger, burner, control. Those are the things that really deliver the performance of any boiler. And I think Viessmann products are always exceptional in all three of those. So I'll start out with, we'll take a detailed look at the Inox radial stainless steel heat exchanger in this boiler. It's really something that we've been making for a long time now, and it really is a great performer and extracts the maximum energy out of that product. Also gives you a huge longevity because of the high grade of material we use in this. The next part of that triangle is the burner. And the burner is unique in this product. It's quite different than the Vitodens 100 series because it's got different control logic built into it. And that ties into the last thing there, the Lambda Pro combustion technology. So we'll elaborate more on that burner and show you how it works and how that Lambda Pro combustion technology really maximizes the performance of that burner. And the third part is the control. The control is the brains of this unit. It's what really drives the efficiency, the performance, how the burner works, how the burner modulates. It ties into the outdoor reset control, and it really is the brains and the heart of this unit. We're able to communicate with the internet in a couple of ways, and I'll show you those later on. And this control system is able to become a full Viessmann system in that we offer remote controls, mixing valves, and actuators that all work together. So this is really a system controller. It can control domestic water production, the multi-temperature space heating, it controls the burner, and it does it all very, very efficiently. So that's another big part of the step up from the 100 series Vitodens to this 200 series is the power of the control is way, way more than you get in the basic entry-level products. So what are the benefits of all these features? I always like to, when I ever talk to people about our products, as attach benefits to the features. A feature is only important to someone if they can see the benefit. Like, someone says, well, so what if you got a, high-grade stainless steel heat exchanger? Why should I care about that? The other guy says he's got a stainless steel heat exchanger too, or he's got an aluminum heat exchanger or whatever. We like to say that when we talk about our features, the benefit is what we show here. Long service life, low fuel consumption, reliability, those are all things that tie into that burner heat exchanger control combination. The range of applications that this boiler is applicable to is huge because of the large, wide range of sizes and the flexibility to go single or multiple and the ability to have multi-temperature heating systems. So this boiler really opens up a lot more possibilities than just our entry-level product. So those are some of the things that sort of round out all the things we're going to talk about in this webinar. We're going to focus on individual parts of that boiler, and we're going to look at all of the specs and give you all the details on this product. But I like to always remind people, never forget to stress the benefits to your customer when you talk about features. So let's talk about some of the specifications of this product. It starts out with the sizes. And there really is a wide range of capacities available with this product. This chart shows you the modulation range of all the different models. And it starts with the 19 size and it goes up to, that's a small unit, 12 to 68,000 BTU output. And that boiler was really designed for the condo market or the small heating load that you see in some of these new homes nowadays that they're very small and energy efficient and tight. And we go up from there all the way up to 199,000 BTUs on the 57 model. These boilers are all full modulation. Most of them are between 5 to 6.6 to 1 turn down ratio, so you can fully modulate the burner within that entire BTU range we show there on the screen. Now the bigger sizes get you up into commercial size applications. And you can see now we go from the 80 to the 150 models, and we're getting into some pretty serious capacities now. The 150 series at the bottom there, that is one of the biggest wall mount boilers available in the market. It's a 530,000 BTU input that you can mount on a wall. So it really is opening up a lot of applications in the commercial market as well. We also offer multiple boiler applications, and we can cascade up to 8 boilers, and we use the Vitotronic 300K MW2C cascade control to do this. We can common vent up to 4 boilers, and I'll elaborate on both of those later on. And that gives you a capacity up to 4.2 million BTUs on a Vitodens system. So you really opens up from that very small condo home market with the smallest series boiler right up to big commercial applications for these multiple Vitodens boilers. And so you got a real range of applications that you can cover with this boiler. The size specs here, I don't want to get into too much detail because you can read all this information in our spec tech data sheets. But this shows you the dimensions, the weights, the dimensions of the pressure relief valves and the tappings and things like that. But the things I want to point out here is there's really 3 distinct chassis that are available in this boiler series. The smallest one here, you can see the first 3 sizes, is quite a tiny boiler, 15.7 inches deep, 17 inches wide, and those are all mostly 3/4 inch connections. You move up to the next chassis size is the 45 up to the 100 series boiler. And there's a couple of new models we introduced recently. So if you haven't looked at the series lately, that we introduced an 88 model, and we changed the size. So that's an additional model we just recently introduced. And now you can see the depth increases to 21 inches, and the width increases to 19 inch. You can certainly see the difference now in the weight, and the supply and return connections get bigger. The gas connection gets bigger. And then the big boys at the top end here, the 112 on the 150 series, 27 inches deep, 23 inches wide. And again, now you're into 2-inch fittings, some pretty substantial weight. This is a 300-pound boiler you're hanging on the wall. So you're not going to hang that on with drywall screws. You need to have some pretty substantial backing. We also offer boiler stands for this as well. And I'll show you those in a little bit. That sizing range, that 3 chassis, carries forward now. If we look at the pressure and temperature rating of these boilers, the small series has a maximum pressure rating of 45 psi, 165 Fahrenheit temperature, and then you move up to the middle round, higher pressure, higher temperatures, up to 176 degrees, and then you go up to the big ones, 80 psi maximum pressure and 180 Fahrenheit. So that's one thing you have to be aware of with the Vitodens series, 200 series boilers. So we do limit the temperature. We don't want to overheat and overstress the heat exchanger. That's the reason why we do this. Some manufacturers have much higher temperature ratings in wall mount boilers, and we just don't feel comfortable with spanking too much heat and stress onto a small heat exchanger. If you need a higher working temperature, what if I need to get 185, 190? Well, we have other boilers that do that. A prime example is the Vitodens 300 CU3A series boiler. That is capable of going up to 194 Fahrenheit. And if you get into the commercial series, the Vitodens 200 CM2 series boiler, which goes up to 2.2 million BTUs, that boiler goes up to its maximum 210 degrees Fahrenheit. So we do have higher temperature capability in our condensing boiler line, but in the wall mounts, and especially the small ones, we do limit the temperature to avoid thermal stress on the heat exchangers. Efficiencies, 95% AFUE in the small ones goes up to, and we show here two different testing criteria here. AFUE only goes up to 299,000 BTUs, so that's why you only see AFUE ratings on the small sizes. Once you get beyond a certain size, it's a different test criteria. It's ANSI Z21 test, which is combustion efficiency test. So they are very different tests, so you do get slightly different results, but overall, the performance of this boiler is really makes it one of the most efficient in the industries. I want to elaborate on efficiency a little bit, because efficiency, even those numbers you see on the AFUE tests, to me are a little bit misleading, because the efficiency of any condensing boiler depends on the return water temperature you run into it. So those efficiency tests are done at a fixed temperature. Like the AFUE test is done at 120 return, 140 supply. So, but that doesn't really tell you the whole story, because the efficiency does change with the returning water temperature. So it depends what you hook the boiler up to, what efficiency you get. And this chart on the left is an efficiency chart from our CM2 series boiler. You can see the efficiency ranges from 88% efficiency when you have high return water temperatures, all the way up to 98% efficiency when you have low return water temperatures. So that's the same with any condensing boiler in our line. The efficiency does vary with temperature. So keep that in mind when you're looking at that AFUE rating. Noise is another great feature of this boiler, in that it's very, very quiet. The decibel rating on this boiler ranges, so you can see, from 35 up to about 65. And as you can see, in most cases, it's very, very low. With minimum input, you can barely hear the string running. Typical refrigerator would be noisier in some cases. You can see on this decibel chart at the top here, the 45 decibels is just above a quiet office. So this thing is you can be standing right beside it, and I know for a fact you can do that, and you can barely hear the thing run. So definitely a great feature. If we look at the construction details, again, the things I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on here is the heat exchanger, the burner, and the control. So those are the three things that I think really set this boiler apart from anything else in the industry. The inox radial stainless steel heat exchanger, the matrix cylinder burner with that Lambda Pro combustion technology, and the Vitotronic system controller really are differentiators on this boiler. A couple other things to point out here: the flue gas outlet comes out the top. The condensate drain, there's always a P-trap in there, and that drains out the bottom. And then you've got boiler supply and return connections that are built in and come out the bottom of the boiler. So those are the core construction of that boiler. And I'll get into the details of some of those things as we move through this presentation. I mentioned earlier about how it's easy to install, and we try to make this boiler as easy as possible to mount and install. There's two mounting methods. The first is when you hang it on the wall. So there's a bracket, which you see here, which is mounted to the studs or to the whatever base you have that can accept the weight of this boiler. And then the boiler has hooks which literally hang on that bracket. So mount the plate, hang the boiler on that bracket. There is some adjustable back feet on some of these boilers, because we want to make sure the boiler is level front to back. We don't want it so that it's sloped this way, because that can cause some problems. So you always want to make sure that the boiler is level this way as well as this way. The other way of mounting the boiler is with a boiler stand. We make a couple different versions of this for the smaller and larger version boilers. There's two ways we can use this. If you don't have a good enough wall to hang the boiler directly on, and then you can use a stand as a wall support and lean it right up against the wall. You can also use that stand completely freestanding. So if you want to put the boiler in the middle of the room where the old boiler was, you can do that with this stand. It makes the boiler completely self-standing. But I would say the vast majority of installations we're mounting it on directly on the wall. Now you also have the capability for multiple boilers to purchase one of our multi-boiler racks. And these are available in one size of manifold for all the boiler series from 45 to 150. And we don't make a rack for the smaller series boilers, but really in most cases you're not doing multiples of the smaller boilers in most cases, but we don't make a rack for those, just for the bigger ones. And there's a bunch of different configurations. There's a 2 and 3 boiler manifold available, and you can join those together in many different ways. You can see there side to side, or you can go around. There's a bend one where you can kind of put it into a corner of a mechanical room, or we can even have this whole thing self-standing with back-to-back boilers as well. So that's 8 boilers all in one footprint there. All of these are connected and sold with large capacity low loss headers. And we'll talk about low loss headers later on, but that's definitely something that we recommend for any Vitodens installation. So lots of different applications and mounting. So you're either typically on a wall, on a rack, or one of these multi-boiler configurations. We supply all of the fittings with NPT threads. So in the green section here, you can see the fittings that are supplied by Viessmann. Down below here, we're showing field supplied fittings. So if you need to have isolation valves and T assemblies, we can do that below the boiler. But we supply the gas valve connection, the drain valves, the boiler feeds, the pressure relief valve are all supplied with our package. Each of these boilers comes with an integrated condensate trap, and you can see they vary a little bit from model to model. But all of these are designed with a flexible hose. So this flexible hose is supplied by Viessmann with the product. And that allows all of these create a P-trap for the condensate, and then we have to pipe that to the drain. And all of these P-traps have the very easy to take apart for cleaning. You can see there's threads on this where I can thread the whole thing apart. I can take that whole condensate trap apart. So it's super easy to service and maintain and clean, because this is one part of the boiler that will need to be maintained on a regular basis, because condensate traps can plug up with dust and debris, and when you're sucking in outside air, these things can over time can plug up if you're not cleaning them out on a regular basis, and we make it really easy to do that. The control panel is a tilt down access, and this gives us very quick and easy access when we're wiring the control or doing troubleshooting. This is the front of the boiler where the control interface sits, and it just pops out if you need to service this unit. And the back side of this control panel is where we have our fuses, our sensor inputs. So for instance, when you're wiring the boiler, you want to wire up that outdoor temperature sensor and the low loss header sensor. They just plug in the back here. And then accessories like lawn cards and things like that are also plugged in here. The other part of the control is the power pump module, and that's now located below it's built into the bottom section of that boiler. So that also pulls forward and hinges down for easy access. And this gives us access to all of the line voltage wiring. And so this is where our power supply comes in. You can see there's knockouts in the back of this electrical box. Wiring comes into the power supply. All of these connections here, the 28, 20, 20, 21, these are our pumps. So this would be our domestic water pump, our boiler pump, our space heating pump. And a lot of these are configurable in different ways. So I can make it, the choice with coding to change the functionality of a lot of these pumps as well. So, and there's other things like alarm outputs. You have inputs on this side. This is my inputs for heat demand signals, 0 to 10 volt inputs, things like that. So all the inputs and outputs are done either on this power pump module, or some of the sensors are plugged into the control module itself. So again, very easy to work with, quick connect plugs, easy numbered terminals, and make it easy for the installer and the service people to get in and install and service those pieces. So that's basically how the boiler goes together. Certainly we have way more detailed information in all of our installation manuals, and you can see in much more detail how those things get installed and wired up. Let's take a look at the heat exchanger, the Inox radial heat exchanger. This heat exchanger design is used in all of our small series condensing boilers, the Vitodens 100, the Vitodens 200, and the Vitodens 222F, all use this heat exchanger design. And we've been making this now for over 15 years. It was introduced with that first series of Vitodens and really hasn't changed fundamentally since then. It's a Viessmann developed design and manufactured by us exclusively for our product, which is really different than almost everyone else in the industry, who most boiler manufacturers nowadays are using someone else's heat exchangers. We make our own. And the other thing that differentiates us from others in the market is that very top line there, SA240 316 Ti stainless steel. This is a very high grade stainless steel. The titanium stabilized stainless steel makes it one of the most corrosion resistant, easy to clean products on the market. And you get excellent heat transfer. Yeah, the titanium gives this heat exchanger the material really great flexibility, so we can make it into this elaborate heat exchanger shape, whereas a lot of other stainless steels in the market, they're more brittle and you can't form them as easily. So stainless steel is not all the same. There's lots of different grades of stainless steel. It's like saying plastic pipe. Well, that doesn't tell you what the properties of the material are. It's the same when someone says, oh, I got a stainless steel heat exchanger too. Well, what is it made of? Is it the same grade of a material as we use? Not likely. So that's a big part of what you pay for with the Viessmann product, is you're paying for this extremely high grade material. The way this heat exchanger works is that the condensation primarily occurs on the outside of the coil. And because in most cases, the inside of the heat exchanger where the burner is too hot, but you get a rapid heat transfer through those coils, and the flue gases are passing through the gaps in between the coils. And when it gets to the outside, that's when it starts condensing. And so if you take a closer look at the design of that, it's based on the principle, it's called the laminar small gap principle. And what it is basically is it's a very precisely maintained gap of 0.8 inches. And you get extensive heat transfer when you pass a flue gas through that very narrow gap. And you can see the difference in temperature there from the inside of the heat exchanger to the outside with a boiler water temperature of 86 Fahrenheit. The flue gas comes out of the secondary through a single pass at 115 degrees. So we get massive heat transfer, so you get condensation occurring immediately on the outside of that coil. So it's a very unique design. And again, it's one that's been very successful for Viessmann over the years. We've had great reliability and durability with this heat exchanger design. You do have to clean the heat exchanger. The inside, not the outside of the coil, because that tends to wash itself off, but the inside of the heat exchanger does require maintenance. So you have to pull that burner off, swing the door open, and vacuum out and clean out these heat exchanger coils. We do now have a cleaning tool which allows you to clean the gaps in between these. It's a little stainless steel thin wafer tool which is specially designed to clean those coils. So that's something that's available from us now. The new series Vitodens B2HB, we went through a heat exchanger redesign about 2 years ago, and we've changed the way the heat exchanger, the flue gas flow goes, and we've created a secondary pass in the back side of the heat exchanger. This has boosted our AFUE efficiency rating up above 95%, and it's used on all the B series Vitodens from the 19 to the 57. This refractory in the middle here does not have to be removed for cleaning, because the back half of that heat exchanger is completely self-cleaning, because the flue gases come out and pass through and wash out this entire back section. So the only thing you have to clean is the front section of that heat exchanger. And this is a picture showing the flue gas flow. You can see that line there, and the temperatures represent the temperature of the flue gases in Celsius. So it's very, very hot in this front section of the combustion chamber. There's our burner. The flue gases pass through. They immediately cool down through that single pass, and then they flow out through the back. So the back section of this heat exchanger is where a lot of condensation occurs, because the flue gases have cooled down so much. Now, on the bigger series Vitodens, we had the challenge of how do I get enough heat transfer area for the output of the boiler and yet still be able to have low friction losses on the water side. So we do this with multi-coil heat exchangers. So you can see on the bigger sizes, 80, 88, and 100, there's actually two coils intertwined. And that gives you equal heat extraction across the whole heat exchanger, but allows us to reduce the friction loss. Because if you had one big long coil, the friction loss would just be too high. You couldn't even pump the water through there. And so you can see it's a two-circuit heat exchanger where we split the flow inside the boiler and split the flow coming out. So you have actually dual redundant thermistors there, a couple isolation valves, and dual flow switches in those bigger series boilers. So from the outside of the boiler, it's just a one pipe coming in and out, but we split the flow up inside. And then on the really big series boilers, we take this even one step further because it's now almost a three-circuit boiler. So the heat exchanger is split into multiple parts with an air venting ridge up the top here to keep from getting airlocked. And I'll show you a little, the next slide here, we show a little video here. You can see how the water comes into that boiler and it's split up into multiple locations, goes to the middle, front, and back. And then it spreads the water across the whole heat exchanger design. So we get equal heat transfer across the whole vessel. We get low friction loss from the water side of the boiler and equal condensing across the whole unit. Okay, so those are in the bigger series boilers. You get that multiple coil heat exchanger design. You can see there how the water spreads out and heats up equally across the whole heat exchanger. So this also helps from having too much expansion and contraction within the heat exchanger as well. Okay, so I want to look now at the Vitodens 200 burner, and that's the matrix cylinder burner, which is again another product that we've been making for a long time. And it's a fully modulating burner with up to a 6.6 to 1 turn down ratio. It can run on either natural gas or LP. We use Lambda Pro technology as a combustion management system, and I'm going to talk some more about that. It's really one of the main things that I think sets this particular boiler series apart from any other boilers in the industry, and also from our 100 series boiler. It's a real step up in burner control technology. Emissions on this boiler are extremely low, and it's really easy to set up and service because it's in a lot of ways it's self-calibrated. You don't have to do much. You can see in this picture up the top here, on the bottom here, you can see you got two electrode sets in here. This is my spark ignition. There's actually two electrodes and you spark in between those two. And the one on the bottom here, the straight one, that's my ionization electrode or my flame rod, which is my flame detection system. And that flame rod is a crucial element in the Lambda Pro technology because it's what determines the combustion properties of the boiler. So I'll explain that a little bit further on. As I said earlier, we've been making this boiler in a couple different forms, the matrix cylinder and the matrix dome burner for over 15 years, and we now use it in a lot of our different boilers. We currently sell it in this matrix series boiler now. It's pretty much the one we use in our entire condensing boiler line. So I want to talk about Lambda Pro. What is it all about? Well, what it is, it's a self-calibrating burner and combustion management system, and it makes automatic adjustments to varying gas quality and different conditions. And so the net result is that it provides optimum combustion at all times. And it really eliminates that burner from getting out of calibration for any reason, whether it's gas quality, whether it's air quality, a variety of things that can cause the gas-air ratio on a burner to get out of whack. And of course, it runs on LP or natural gas. So this picture on the right here is showing the lambda, which is excess air, versus the ionization signal. And what you can see here is lambda is at 1.0 means you've got an equal mixture of gas and air. Well, that's absolutely perfect combustion, sort of theoretical combustion, but we cannot run a boiler at that rate because if you go anywhere below lambda 1, you get into bad combustion. You get too much fuel, and that causes very poor efficiency. You can see the efficiency drops right off. You get very poor, you get potential of high CO and soot formation even in extreme cases. So we need to operate the boiler on the lean side, which is good combustion, and we want to be in as close as possible to 1, but not too far. If we go too far over here, we've got too much air, it robs efficiency. So we want to be about 1.3. So the objective of Lambda Pro is to always maintain that perfect excess air ratio. And it does this by measuring the ionization signal, because there's a direct relationship between the ionization signal and the excess air ratio. I'm going to show you this little video here, and this is a little animation that shows what happens under different conditions. If I've got not enough gas, then the boiler, or sorry, too much air and not enough gas, we get lean combustion. And the ionization signal will pick up on that. It sends a signal back to the Vitotronic control, and that burner will automatically adjust itself and boost up the gas. So this is a real-time thing that's happening all the time. It doesn't happen as slow as this. So you can see down the bottom here, I'm always trying to stay in this zone here, this 1.3 lambda. And it's the ionization signal that picks up on any variations. So if something changes in the gas supply or the air supply, the ionization signal picks it up immediately. And if we get to that bad combustion, it's going to react immediately and change itself. So it's always constantly adjusting and changing and monitoring what's going on. No field adjustments required, just perfect combustion all the time. So the real benefits here are to the boiler owner and to the installer. We provide always optimum combustion and automatic adjustments. So the benefits to the owner is, of course, constant, high efficiency, safe, comfortable, operation. And the benefit to the installer is, fast, easy, simple commissioning, no field adjustments or calibration required. It's sort of self-calibrating, super simple adjustment for natural gas or LP. The reason why this is becoming more and more of an issue, it has to do with the gas industry itself. We've got a changing gas supply now. Fracking, liquefied natural gas, biogas, all this stuff's being pumped into the grid now. And you get varying qualities of gas and all the time now in different areas. So combustion control is really the answer to this issue. And we think this is what sets our 200 series boiler apart. And as well as the Vitocrosso 300 has this as well. We talked about LP conversions. Couldn't be easier. You also see there the requirements, minimum and maximum gas pressures. One of the things we can do with this boiler is run it down to very, very low pressures. Most times you're not going to see gas pressures below 7 inches, but if you do, it's not a problem for this boiler. To convert to LP is very, very simple. There's a little set screw on the gas valve. There's a coating change you make, and that's it. No recalibration. The burner will calibrate itself automatically. Once the first time you fire it up on propane, it will look at the lambda and adjust itself accordingly. The third part of that boiler that I wanted to really elaborate, as I mentioned earlier, is the control. So heat exchanger, burner, control. These are the three core items of this boiler. And the control we use on this Vitodens is really exceptional. It's a multifunctional outdoor reset control and system controller. So it doesn't just control the boiler, it controls the system. So not only is it looking at that combustion with the Lambda Pro, but it's also looking at outdoor reset, domestic water production. It can change mixing valves. It can tie into building automation systems. It really is a phenomenal control system. The thing that really sets it apart from the Vitodens 100 series is the capability it has for controlling multi-temperature space heating and domestic water systems. It's got the capability to up to 3 heating circuits with 1 high temperature circuit right off the boiler and 2 mixing valve circuits with motorized mixing valves. Of course, domestic water priority and integrated digital timers. So you can really optimize the performance and efficiency of your system with this control system. And we have also communication options for building management interface or for internet communication. We also have a 0 to 10 volt input, so you can have a building automation system directly drive this boiler with a 0 to 10 volt signal. So there's lots of communication possibilities there, and I'll elaborate on that further on. I wanted to sort of step back a little bit and just talk about outdoor reset. Some people we find still don't really understand outdoor reset. And to me, it's the heart of what you want to do with any modern condensing high efficiency boiler is use outdoor reset to modulate the boiler water temperature according to how cold it is outside. And there's a direct relationship to how cold it is outside to how much energy you need to heat the building. And the benefits to outdoor reset are twofold: reducing fuel consumption and enhancing comfort. It's kind of a double whammy that's some people have a hard time getting their mind around, because how can you save fuel by reducing the temperature? Well, what you're doing is you're taking out a lot of the high and low spots and making the temperature in the space much more consistent and even. The fundamental of outdoor reset is understanding the heating curves, and what we're showing here is that if I select a heating curve of 1.2, as the outdoor temperature changes, I deliver different water temperatures. So if it's 5 degrees outside, I deliver 45 degrees Celsius water temperature. If it's minus 10 outside, I deliver close to 60 Celsius. So the water temperature will modulate up and down. And of course, the burner modulation is also tied into this as well. So that boiler is going to be modulating itself all the time to maintain and satisfy the load according to what is it outside. So it really is the best way to control the energy output of the boiler and the energy consumption of the boiler. The outdoor reset control, the Vitotronic, the interface is the new black interface control we introduced a couple of years ago at Viessmann. And it's a really super easy interface to understand and operate. It's got intuitive programming functions and graphic displays, so you can sort of read what's on the screen and follow through. We go through a procedure in-house here where we can say you can do a complete system startup in 45 seconds. So it doesn't take long to do a basic system setup. I'll show you a few of the screens here. You can see the setback timers. It's very visual. You can see the clock and the different hours of the day. So it's very easy to set your timers if you want to use that function. Changing from Celsius to Fahrenheit couldn't be easier. Your slope and shift adjustments. You can see right in the screen here, when you change that slope adjustment, you'll see the screen change up and down. And you'll be able to very visually see what's going on. You can say, oh, if I make this change 1.4, this is what happens. It tells you what the water temperature will be at different outdoor temperatures. So it's much more easily to visualize what you're actually changing. Now, one of the things the Vitotronic boiler and system control gives you the capability of doing is to have a complete Viessmann controlled system. And this is an approach that we've been preaching for 20 years. It started with the Trimatic MC control that we sold on our early version Vitolas and Atoll atmospheric boilers. And it's moved forward through the years to our wall mounts, and it's carried forward with this boiler. And the Viessmann system approach means that you have one controller which controls the burner, the modulation, controls the pumps, controls the production of domestic hot water, controls the temperature going to the high temperature circuit, adjusts the motorized mixing valve. It gets sensor inputs from the outdoor sensor, the low loss header sensor. So it's a complete Viessmann system approach. And we believe it's one of the ways to really optimize that system to its max, because there's lots of other ways you can control a system, but this is a all-in-one, that Vitotronic control is designed and it's capable of operating this system very, very efficiently. So there's lots of different combinations and permeations of heating layouts, and I'll show you a few later on, but that Viessmann system approach is really something we like to really promote. The building management communication gateway is the VitoGate 300. This is a product that's available for all of our different boiler series, and it allows us to integrate with a building automation system. There's two versions of that, the BACnet and a Modbus version. And basically what the VitoGate is, it's a window into our world. So the building management system can look into our world through that VitoGate, read sensors, status, fault alarms, all kinds of stuff. They can make adjustments even in some cases, but it allows the Viessmann control to do what it does, which is modulate burners and rotate boilers and cycle things like that. But it lets the building automation system see what's going on, have some influence on what's going on, and yet there's a separation there. We also have the Vitocom 100 LAN 1 module, which is a product that's available to connect to the internet through the Vito data server. And there's even apps that are available now. You can now access through this a boiler or a multi-boiler system through your smartphone. And gives you the ability to monitor, see what's going on, adjust heating programs, things like that, timer schedules, and switch the boiler from a standby mode to an operating mode. So for a remote cottage or we have some contractors now that monitor their customers' job sites with the Vitocom, and they can go online and see exactly what's going on before the customer even knows there's a problem. So we had a webinar on the Vitocom 100 in the last month or so. So if you want more information on that, you can certainly view that. We have multiple venting options with the Vitodens 200. There is a variety of materials that are available, from coaxial pipe-in-pipe to single wall, flexible, CPVC, stainless steel, lots of options. The top of the boiler has been reconfigured from our early versions of Vitodens. So you now have on the smaller series boilers a 2-pipe system or a 1-pipe system. If you got a coaxial system, you can use the top connector here and just leave the plugs in these ones. If you using a 2-pipe system, you can do it differently. So, and then the larger series boilers, if you want to do a 2-pipe system, there's a special adapter which goes on there, so you can have flue gases and combustion air coming in that one unit. We'll go through the venting options here. Coaxial is the pipe within a pipe. This is one I've always promoted because you get a preheating action, like the exiting combustion air is actually preheating the incoming combustion air. So that's a very small efficiency boost to the appliance. So we offer vertical and horizontal version of that concentric venting system. You then can get into 2-pipe systems with the adapter or without the adapter, depending on which model you're looking at. If it's the smaller series, you have that second opening for the combustion air. With the bigger units, you have that adapter. So with the 2-pipe system, I can go vertical, horizontal, or even hybrid systems where I have, part coming in the side, part coming in going vertical. Then you have single pipe systems with combustion air being supplied from the room. This gives you the longest possible vent lengths because you're only dealing with one pipe, but you have to have combustion air in the mechanical room. Of course, we offer flexible PPS options as well. If you're retrofitting into an existing chimney, this is a flexible PPS product that allows you to snake it up the chimney and then connect it to the boiler. So lots of options for venting the boiler. We also introduced recently common venting for multiple boilers, and there's a separate manual for this. And a couple things to be aware of there. It's only available for up to 4 boilers. And the combustion air can be a variety of different things. You can use room air, individual boiler intakes, or a common intake for up to 4 boilers. With common venting, you can only go vertical. There's no sidewall option with the common vented unit. So if you want more information on that, pick up that manual. I want to take a quick look at some of the piping layout options. And it starts out with a little bit of talk about low mass boilers and what kind of flow requirements they require. One of the things about a low mass boiler is you got to make sure you got the right flow, and you got to have water flowing through that heat exchanger whenever the burner is firing. So in most cases, we need a dedicated boiler pump with a certain flow rate, and this requires us to separate the boiler from the system. And there's 2 ways of doing that we're showing here: primary, secondary with closely spaced T's, or with a low loss header. In my opinion, the low loss header is the better way to go. It's kind of a pre-assembled, pre-made primary secondary connection system. But both of these are acceptable if you follow the right rules and regulations. So I won't get into that now, but I just want to point out that all of the piping layout drawings I'll show you here, they all have a low loss header. So this is an example of how we would pipe up a space heating zone with multiple pumps or multiple zones, and then you've got domestic water coming off the boiler. So domestic water comes off the boiler with a separate pump, and we've got a boiler pump for the low loss header. And then you've got the secondary side of the system has its own circulating. So that's typical of how we would see any space heating domestic water kind of application. This is a very common type of multi-temperature, multi-function system where we have domestic water production off the boiler. We've got a low loss header separating the boiler loop from the system. And then I've got my high temperature circuit, in this case being a fan coil, and my low temperature circuit being a radiant floor system. The low temperature circuit has a motorized mixing valve, which will communicate back to the boiler. We've got a sensor in here which communicates to the boiler. We've got a sensor in the tank which communicates to the boiler. and we've got an outdoor temperature sensor that communicates to the boiler. So the boiler is making decisions on what pumps are running, what burner firing rate, what temperatures to deliver based on the requirements of all those different parts of the system. And then we can get into more elaborate systems. The Viessmann system approach allows us to go 2 motorized mixing valves and a high temperature circuit. So I can have 3 different water temperatures being delivered to 3 different parts of the building. So I can really get into powerful multi-function, multi-temperature systems with the Vidotronic control. And then we can also, of course, control multiple boilers and also multiple temperature systems. So you've got a lot of power with the Viessmann control system to get into very elaborate systems. So those are just a quick few layouts. There's lots of other layout options available in our technical data manual. Those are just a few. So just to sum up some of the things I've talked about, I think the Vitodens 200 boiler gives you a lot of possibility with your heating systems. There's a wide range of applications, both commercial and residential. We can go single boiler or multiple boilers up to 8 boilers. So you can get into very small applications with that 19 series Vitodens, or you can get into very large applications with the multiple boiler system. Really opens up a wide range of possibilities. Extremely efficient operation with that modulation burner, high-tech stainless steel heat exchanger, and system controller Vidotronic gives you the ability to really control the fuel consumption of the building dramatically. The system controller is really a differentiator for this product. It's capable of doing all the control you need without buying any other additional pieces of equipment. And if you go with that full-blown Viessmann system approach, you're going to get a system that we know will work very well, and we know will give you the performance you want. You call us up, you got a full-blown Viessmann system approach with a mixing valve, we'll be able to help you out. There is some coding adjustments that need to be made, but we know it'll work the way it's supposed to. Reliability and long life is what Viessmann's been all about for 25 years. And we can provide that with the high-grade stainless steel and the construction materials we use in our burners and controls and such. That Lambda Pro technology is a differentiator from a standpoint of always maintaining perfect combustion and being absolutely self-calibrating. It really makes this boiler a lot more forgiving to different conditions, different altitudes, different gas qualities, different fuels. It just makes it takes that burner side out of the equation from the installer's point of view. It just takes care of it all the time. Very, very quiet, flexible venting options are certainly other great features, and easy to service and maintain. So that really sums up that product. We had to whip through things because there's a lot to cover in a short period of time, but I do appreciate you sitting with us, and hopefully you've learned a little bit about this Vitodens product. There is a couple of handouts we included with this webinar, but of course you can get more online, and we encourage you to, if you need more information, to contact us. Our sales rep network is available to help you. We have sales rep all across Canada that are there. They're your feet in the street. They're there to come to you and help you. So please take advantage of them. If you don't know who they are, you can go on our website and you can see on that sales rep network where they're located. You can go to our website and download all kinds of information from our pro login section of the website. If you haven't been to our website in a while, you may want to check it out. We just recently upgraded the website and changed it up a little bit. We're adding all of our archived webinars, so you'll be able to go in there and access all of our webinars that we've done in the past. We've been doing webinars all year this year, and we're going to give you access to all of those. And of course, we do training in-house as well at our Viessmann Academy. So lots of additional help available to you if you need it. If you have any other questions, certainly give us a call, send us an email. We'll be more than happy to help you out. So just to wrap up here, thanks again for joining us. We've enjoyed having you with us, and we thank you for joining us. If you have any other questions, there's my contact information there, and we certainly are appreciative of you spending your time with us today for this webinar. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.